1015 FM, 720 AM. KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the tag team of Andrew Fish Fain, Joe DeFalco, and your host, Mark Hoke.
Sunday. Here we are. It is the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN 1015 FM, 720 AM. It is the talk of Las Vegas. Very happy to have you with us today as we get into a massive 2-hour extravaganza of pro wrestling news and entertainment. I can't wait to get into this. I'm Mark Hoke, and I've got two of the best guys I could possibly have riding shotgun with me on this journey, especially the guy sitting in front of me right now, Andrew Fish Fain, sporting the Philadelphia Eagles Reggie White jersey. Very nice, sir.
Thank you. I'm just trying to pace myself for the 2 hours.
Yeah, you look very comfortable.
I am.
Here's the funny part, is in our studio, there's one seat for the host, and then all the other guests sit on the other side. So there's 3 chairs over there. Fish has got the feet up, kicking back, relaxing, enjoying, and I'm stuck on the other side. Maybe I need to bring a footstool in. I don't know. Joe DeFalco is comfortable at home. Of course, he's the king, the lord, the overmaster of future stars of wrestling here in Las Vegas. Mr. DeFalco, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm sitting here in my underwear, but I'm going to go put on my Earl Campbell jersey. So,
okay.
Wow.
That works. As long as it's not a Billy Sims jersey.
I hope it's not.
Billy Sims, he's one of the greatest, too.
Yeah, he was. Unfortunately, just like Gale Sayers before him, injuries cut their careers a little short.
Yes, sir. I'm big into the old running back, so.
You and me both.
I'm just trying to get past Joe in his underwear. That's not good. Unbelievable. We're not doing the show in the underwear, everybody. It's okay.
That's why I don't come to the studio. See, I could just sit here. And
wait, so I got to put my pants back on?
Yeah, but Joe, we got to get you in here sometime. You sound so much better in person, on a microphone.
Well, I'll make you a deal. If Family Soul gives us free food at the studio, then I might have to come in.
Okay. They are serving breakfast.
Because that food, even when you pay for it, the food is absolutely amazing and well worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a couple great sponsors and a new old sponsor. It's a long story, but we will introduce that little tidbit later on during the show. But boys, what a week in professional wrestling.
And the best part about it is it's a lead up to an even bigger week coming up.
Yeah, this weekend is going to be insane. We've got the WWE Clash at the Castle premium live event on Saturday morning. And then Sunday night is AEW All Out, plus we got an NXT.
Yeah, Worlds Collide. That's like Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, which still don't have that card settled at all, which I'm a little disappointed about.
The NXT card?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple. You have
a couple.
You have the big one, which is Braun Breaker versus Tyler Bright.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. That was kind of big news last week. And we really didn't get into it too much, but WWE is folding up the NXT UK promotion over there. So now this Worlds Collide is kind of, it really is Worlds Colliding because they pretty much got rid of just about everybody that was performing in that organization for them over in the UK. But they're matching up the champions, and they're going to send some of these guys out.
See, you make it sound like it was such a horrible thing. It's not they were closing down NXT UK. They're starting NXT Europe.
Yeah, but still, there was a lot of panic back there for a while, not knowing what was going on.
That's true.
Yeah, but so a farewell to WWE NXT UK.
But
it's too many letters.
No, but you were talking about the news this past week, and I think we need to jump right in because I'm very interested. And you and I talked about this off the air a couple of days ago. the match on Wednesday between one chick magnet Punk and Mr. Moxley.
Of course, there has been so much news out of AEW this week, but obviously dealing with the World Championship is huge. They decided to have the unification match on Dynamite this week with CM Punk, the world champion who had gotten hurt right after he won the title at Double or Nothing here in Las Vegas a few months ago, hurt his foot. And Jon Moxley won the interim world championship. They decided to do an interim world title. And very quickly, it only took a few minutes, Punk feigns an injury to his foot, and Moxley walks out with the title in a Cena-esque, Cena Lesnar-esque squash match.
But at least Cena Lesnar lasted. I mean, this was like a minute and a half. Punk basically hit a roundhouse kick to Moxley's head, and when he hit the kick, it hurt his foot, and then it was over.
Yeah, and so Jon Moxley is going into All Out as the world champion, and there is so much speculation because there's a lot of drama backstage with the CM Punk Hangman Adam Page issues that have been going on with their dueling promos and CM Punk going off script last week on Dynamite. Guys, this is kind of a mess right now. Let me start with, where do you think this is going to go? I mean, is Punk going to win the title back at All Out? Do you think there's going to be some sort of craziness going on? Where do you see this going? Because I have a couple ideas.
Is there a match already set? Definitely Moxley and Punk?
They have not set the match.
Because, and like I said, and this is pure rumor, the rumor is that Punk is really ticked off at having a squash match to lose to Moxley at Dynamite. And that he may not wrestle again with the company. I don't know how true that is. But that becomes very interesting in and of itself. I don't know what his contract situation is with AEW, but this is the first real watershed moment for AEW and how they handle this controversy they're dealing with.
Joe, have you heard anything about what's going on there?
Well, first off, they're really trying their best to emulate WCW, and they're doing a really good job of it right now. The thing I heard was that now all of a sudden that Moxley is moving on from CM Punk and that Punk isn't getting the rematch. So, it's really kind of crazy. It's like, everything that happens there, everybody's like, oh, it's work, it's work, it's work. MJF, it's work. And it's like, so, now it's like your two biggest guys, MJF and CM Punk, both have no interest in seemingly being there. And maybe they're trying to massage it into a work, but, I think they need Colt Cabana to sit in Wrestler's Court and figure this all out.
Yeah, CM Punk would love to have Colt Cabana over Wrestler's Court, which he hated, by the way.
As a promoter, as ridiculous as it sounds, because it's a championship match and it's supposed to be so big, could this be punishment for Punk for going off script on the promo the week before?
Well, so you punished your company by not selling the pay-per-views of Punk versus Moxley at the pay-per-view, and you showed him by giving it away on free TV, which is mind-boggling. We thought somebody learned from Hogan and Goldberg on Nitro, and they followed it up on Dynamite with that, and then as he was losing so quickly, now it makes you wonder if those rumors of him not wanting to be around, you say about his contract, he could care less about his contract. What are they going to do? He doesn't show up. Okay, I quit. He ain't going to go back to WWE, and he can't go back to WWE. He's a guy who's proven in the past that he can live without wrestling. He's supposedly saved his money well. He probably made a lot of money. He's still making money from pro wrestling tees. So money is definitely not the situation. It's funny because when other people leave the companies because they don't feel they're being treated right, and not that I'm a fan of Punk, but it's like when Sasha and Naomi, they stood up for what they believed. Well, I guess maybe that's what Punk's doing. And he's really starting to get a miserable reputation.
Yeah, and based on, to kind of back up a little bit more on what's been going on with this and what started all of this, was Hangman Adam Page, in the lead up to Double or Nothing, made a couple of comments during a promo that Punk didn't like, and someone was referring to that they weren't happy with, he wasn't happy with Colt Cabana. Of course, they had an issue a while back with what happened on their podcast they did when Punk left WWE, made a comment about WWE's doctors not taking care of him, and ended up both of them getting sued, and they sued each other. It was an absolute mess. And then Punk went off script on Dynamite a week ago and called out Hangman Adam Page and wasn't supposed to do it. And everybody's just freaking out, like, why is he doing this? Because it embarrassed Page. And apparently that was the receipt for that. And then all of a sudden, later in the show, they announce it's Punk Moxley on Dynamite for the title the next week. And now you're also hearing other stories about how people aren't happy with him in the back. He's not getting along with people. Punk even did an interview where he said, well, you know, if everybody needs to stop going to Dave Meltzer and complaining about me, come talk to me. So, you know, it's a really weird situation, and I don't know if Punk is really planning on leaving or not, if there's a swerve coming it all out. You know, it's just bizarre. And then, you know, a lot of the reactions to the match were pretty stupid too.
You know, it's funny because Joe, you mentioned this, and the more I think about it, they are copying the WCW the way they did things, but it's almost like a combination of the two worst things WCW did. One was the Hogan Goldberg match on free TV, and the other was, because this was such a squash, it was almost like the finger poke of doom. It happened so quickly. I mean, it wasn't quite as blatant as that, obviously, but it happened so quickly that the match was. It wasn't even a match. At the beginning of the match, the announcers are going, "Oh, we have all hour to show this match," and it lasted literally 3 minutes.
You know, it's sort of going off subject. This woke world that the issue started because the king of the pipe bomb was upset that a guy who was trying to get heat on somebody cut a promo and said some realistic things that the other person didn't like. And then it happened again when Eddie Kingston, who happens to be overweight, gets a promo done by Sammy Guevara, who talks about Eddie Kingston being fat, and it leads to a fight backstage. And it's like, wow, like, what a woke world we live in. I thought Eddie Kingston had a little more, that being the veteran knows what it's like to be in wrestling, to not be, getting all upset because, well, he never cleared it with me. It was like, wow, when we do promos, we never, I don't say, hey, we're going to say some hurtful things and we're trying to promote something. Is it okay with you? Oh, no, don't talk about any of my negativity stuff. Make sure you only say good things about me. It's like, what is this world of wrestling that we're living in that, Sammy Guevara should have cleared it with him? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not understanding this.
Yeah, this is, and that's kind of where I wanted to go next was with that situation. We also had the situation with Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston where there was a promo that was cut by Sammy who called Eddie a fat piece of duty, and Eddie said, oh, now we're fat shaming. And Eddie Kingston is not physically the, shall we say, in the best of shape. I mean, he's not like 500 pounds or anything, but he's got a little bit of spare tire.
He's a lot like Kevin Owens.
Yeah. I think Kevin's more
muscular.
Beer keg.
Yeah.
Eddie's a little more spare tire. And it ended up a massive fight in the back. And, well, not massive fight, but they got into it.
And Kingston was suspended.
Kingston got suspended. And now they've both been doing damage control on the whole thing on Twitter and so on, trying to settle all of this down. I'm sure, that was just a mess. And they had to have a talent meeting on Wednesday before the Dynamite show with everybody. And apparently a lot got aired out in there. But, yeah, but I agree with you, Joe, that look, if you've got flaws, you're going to get called out on it. And, unfortunately, Disco Inferno actually on Twitter got into this a little bit and saying, oh, it's a disgrace to the industry if you're overweight. It's like, well, there have been a lot of good overweight wrestlers.
No, that's very true.
But
I
it's just
think
stupid.
Disco was talking more about, maybe he should get in shape. And it's like, a lot of people always talk about, hey, you want to look the part. You got to look the part. It's looking the part. And in some cases, a guy like Heath Lee, wow, here's a big guy who's overweight who can do super cool things, Willie Mack, But when the heel's using that to try to get heat, and then the babyface beats him up for it, that's what's supposed to be the story. There's a reason he's the bad guy, and there's a reason that he's the good guy. And, wrestling is forever had shapes and sizes, and Earthquake and Abdullah the Butcher and Haystacks Calhoun back to, the early days. And it's like, yeah, it's always been the same. And nowadays, it's like Sammy Guevara said, Jesus, it was a tape show. If they didn't like what was said, they just edit it out like they do all the time. And supposedly they did edit it out. And it's like, if you're going to get upset over something somebody says in a promo that's supposed to, like, try to bring you down, man, now, you always hear about on set, they have the intimacy coaches. Now they need to have those coaches in wrestling, to the sensitivity coaches, to make sure it's okay to say a certain negative thing about somebody in a wrestling promo.
How big of a turning point is everything that's going on right now for AEW? How important is it that this all gets settled and they get back on? Because it looked like they had a rocket ship tied to their back and they were headed to the moon. And then all of a sudden, Vince McMahon leaves, Triple H takes over WWE. WWE starts taking off, and AEW seems to start falling apart.
Yeah, but this has been happening for months now. It's just like really coming to a head. The honeymoon's over. So now it's like, okay, it's now 2 years later, 3 years later, whatever it is. They're still in the same exact spot. No matter who they've brought in, they're trying to get to 1 million viewers. They get to 1 million viewers, and it's like, oh, my God, we got 1 million viewers. It was like Impact had 1 million viewers back when Hogan and them came in and Bischoff, and it was just like, yeah, big deal, they got 1 million viewers. And it's like there's still no competition for WWE. And now when AEW gets 1 million viewers, when they first got them, it was like huge. And now it's no growth. They've brought in CM Punk, and they've brought in Danielson, and they've brought in Cesaro, and they've brought in all these superstars that have come in, and nothing has moved the needle. They're exactly where they're at. They're a niche company that is a strong niche company, but that's what they are. They're not competition to WWE in terms of, WWE better watch their back. AEW is going to beat them.
And ironically, this entire time, Roman Reigns has been the champion in WWE, and he has moved the needle.
Yeah, and right now I think the leadership style of Tony Khan is catching up a little bit because, obviously they also announced a couple weeks ago that they were putting a bunch of people into talent relations, Alexander Dutt, Tony Schiavone, and others to help out with these relations between management and the talent, because there were issues. A lot of people were saying that if you weren't on the right side of the gang, that you were being shut out and not being communicated well with. So
I've heard that from numerous wrestlers who are there and were there, that if you're in Tony Khan's clique, supposedly Tony Khan's a party guy, wants to have a good time, he goes out, and then there's the boys that, cling to the boss, and they get kind of good positions. And some of the guys that don't want to go hang out and drink it and party, and after the show, they kind of get left on the wayside. And, he seems to be, a little bit erratic from what I've heard. It's nice to have daddy's money.
Yeah, and you've seen that some of the tweets that he's made. The most recent one was when Vince got fired and he said, "I'm now the longest tenured CEO in professional wrestling." I'm like, dude, come on. Yes, we appreciate
Stay in your lane, Tony.
We appreciate what you're doing, but you haven't been doing this long enough to shoot your mouth off like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he wants, he wants to show you. He needs to show everybody. Obviously that ego is there. He needs to go out and tell everybody what he's done. It's like, okay, dude, you did this, and you got on TNT because your dad owns the Jaguars and you're worth billions of dollars, and you basically bought the time and worked out a deal. And that's great and all, and it's great for the wrestling community because there's so many more guys making a lot of money. And obviously he's done great things by starting a company that, move the needle, but not move the needle to where, it's WWE and WCW back and forth with the ratings, because things are so different. But it's like he's like that rich kid who's trying to show everybody, look what I can do it on my own. I don't need my dad type of thing.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a mess. And, I kudos to them for trying to take some steps to fix it, but I think Tony's got to take a step back. And by the way, we're on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM. This is the Talk of Las Vegas. We are the greatest pro wrestling show on, well, the universe. Shall we just say Andrew Fish, Fain, Joe DeFalco?
I think Tony Khan thought that just by hiring guys like Punk and Moxley and Jericho and Danielson, that all of a sudden that he would recreate the Monday Night Wars and that they would be as successful as WCW was back then when they brought in the NWO and everything. And it's not even close.
No, because WCW at least had the NWA and Ric Flair and the Horsemen and all that stuff beforehand. So they had, 50 years of history, and they kind of changed their name and had some homegrown people, and they had guys like Sting and all the others. The WWE had guys that, regardless of what you say about a Cesaro, he was a guy that was never put in the main event. And there are reasons for that. As phenomenal as he is in wrestling, character-wise, which is extremely important these days, it's never taken off. And Danielson, he's on the show, and I know he's been hurt, but it's kind of like, he's involved. CM Punk, they're wrestling guys like Dante Martin and Daniel Garcia, young guys, and it's all good and everything, but they're unestablished, and nobody cares about them.
Yeah, and I think that the injuries threw a lot of things off for them, and they haven't quite recovered yet. I mean, a lot of people went down over the past few months in AEW, and it really changed the bookings up. And, it goes to show that, Mr. Booker of the Year, well, welcome to professional wrestling and some of the crazy stuff that's going to happen, because obviously Adam Cole and Danielson and
Kenny Omega,
Punk,
which was the first one, yeah.
You had all these great matches lined up, and all of a sudden all these guys just at once went down like ducks in a shooting gallery, and you're kind of like, well, what do we do?
When you talk about Kenny Omega, as great as he may be, he's never carried a company TV ratings wise. He's not that superstar. CM Punk was. So you would think that Punk and Omega would be like the big deal, but I don't know if it is anymore.
Yeah, and it's and you are recycling some people that were in WWE. You've got to rehabilitate their images a little bit, and yeah, it's a tricky spot they're in right now, headed into All Out. So the All Out pay-per-view better be pretty darn good.
Didn't they set up a program of Moxley and Jericho?
Yeah, they just did that again.
When is that match? That match is when?
Yeah, that was done. They just finished that up.
The Lionheart when Moxley,
they had a match a couple weeks.
That
ago.
was a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I thought it was coming up.
Where have you been?
I don't know. Well, watching WWE.
From what I hear, they're talking about it again. So
yeah, we'll find out. All right, guys. Well, hey, we have to head to break, but when we come back, more from AEW as they get ready for All Out. We've got some big news going on in WWE, a ton of stuff happening. It has been a crazy time in pro wrestling, and we're going to have more of it for 2 hours. So stick around, everybody, here on the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN, 101.5 FM, 720 AM. We'll be right back.
I'm Mark Hoke, and I've got to tell you about the incredible Family Soul Restaurant. They're the only soul food restaurant in Northwest Las Vegas, and simply put, they're the best in the city. Dan and his family have always treated me like I was a part of theirs every time we come in, and we never leave hungry. Start off with the amazing appetizers like their mac and cheese crab balls, crispy wings, and Dan's Soul Rolls. Then dive into Family Soul's dinners with homemade catfish, hot links, and fried chicken with all the amazing sides you could ever want, and finish it off with homemade peach cobbler and banana pudding. Plus, they're now open for breakfast Friday through Sunday, too. So head on over to Family Soul Restaurant right now at 2300 North Rainbow Boulevard, Suite 108, just off the Lake Mead and Cheyenne exits of I-95. Check them out at FamilySoulRestaurant.com or call 725-205-5085 for hours and their menu. Mention KDWN and get the People's Choice Special of catfish, yams, and greens for just $15.99. It's food for the soul and the family. Family Soul Restaurant. When it comes to having the right attorney in your corner, you want to have a proven winner on your side. And Russell Dutch Boyd of VegasCounsel.com knows how to win in Las Vegas. Boyd graduated at 18 years old from law school and is also a 3-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner. And no matter what legal challenges you're facing, Boyd will help you through it all. As a litigation attorney, he covers multiple areas of law, including personal injury, business law and startup, cyber law, and crypto clients, and whatever else you might need to navigate the legal waters of Las Vegas and beyond. Just visit VegasCounsel.com to set up your free initial consultation today. That's VegasCounsel.com and let Dutch Boyd help you win today. Once again, that's Russell Boyd at VegasCounsel.com. Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit MarkHokeShow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join the Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.
101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
And we are back on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM. It is the talk of Las Vegas. It's the station so nice it's on your dial twice. And we're doing a little pro wrestling news. And we, sorry. And we, man, I was on a roll there, and Angelo broke me up. Our producer back there, silly guy. Got the Raiders hat on. You got to get an Eagles hat. He's got an Eagles jersey. What are you doing? Come on. Anyway, but of course, we are the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment here in Las Vegas. I'm Mark Hoke, along with Andrew Fish, Fain, and Joe DeFalco. And real quick before we get into it, guys, we were talking about CM Punk maybe wanting to leave AEW. Might have a contract issue there. And if he does, he might want to give a friend of mine a call. That is Russell Dutch Boyd from VegasCounsel.com. Guys, Boyd graduated from law school at 18 years old. That's how smart this dude is. I've known him for a very long time. He is a straight-up kind of guy, and he's the kind of person you want in your corner if you have any legal issues. It covers just about everything. But, of course, he's worked as a defense attorney, covers a ton of areas of law like business law, startup, and even stuff like cyber law and crypto clients. Some pretty cool things he's into. So he can help you out. So if you, CM Punk, or anybody else needs some legal help, just go to VegasCounsel.com, COUNSEL.com, set up a free consultation with a 3-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner, too, so you can talk a little poker with him. That's VegasCounsel.com. And get on board with Dutch Boyd. Let him get you through the legal journey of Las Vegas. And Lord knows a lot of people need it, right, right, Fish?
Yeah.
Because I was just going to say, wow, what a great name for a poker guy.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You guys, I don't know how far
maybe it's because I heard the name before. That's why.
Right. He was in the crew back when Chris Moneymaker won that world championship a while back.
There you go. That's why I was like, wow, that's a great poker name.
Yeah. So you've seen Dutch on TV too. He's a great guy, and like I say, he's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for over a decade, and I'm telling you, you can trust him. So check it out at Vegas Counsel.
To him.
Yeah. But more issues in AEW, by the way.
Well, real quick,
Oh, yeah.
just what I've been learning that the reason why they had that match between Punk and Moxley is because Moxley didn't want to, because the original plan called for it to be all out and Moxley to lose. Moxley didn't want to just flat out lose to CM Punk, so he wanted to beat him first, and then he's apparently now they're going to have the rematch at All Out, and that's when Moxley is going to lose and Punk will regain the championship.
That's what I read too. I'm just wondering how they're going to do it. And before we get into the topic I was going to mention, I wouldn't be surprised if the way Punk's been acting, kind of get into a heel role, that maybe he comes back and maybe he's got a little friend by his side. Maybe it's time for a little Punk and Maxwell Jacob Friedman action to be going on in AEW.
I think
that would be huge.
I think they've lost all momentum with MJF.
I don't think so. He's too good. I think
they're
he's
going to
fine.
have to build him back up because it's been 3 months now since you've seen it. It's ridiculous. You've lost too much momentum with it because it wasn't an injury or anything that's kept him off TV.
Well, but we've seen that sometimes where people are off TV for a long time and they come back. I mean, Joe, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that I got no idea what they're doing over there in some cases, and MJF had so much momentum. Yeah, I guess he could come back to a hero's welcome, but you missed the boat. Everything was as hot can be with him, and just to take him off, it's like, I don't know how people react. It's like, so he's going to be gone for that long and then just pop up and be friends with CM Punk? I don't get how that would make any sense whatsoever. I know we got to suspend belief, but we got to be made to believe that that's possible. And I believe it. I think he's lost a lot of momentum.
Yeah, and one thing, of course, when the last time we saw him on TV, he cut a scathing promo against Tony Khan and swore a couple times on air. And the Time Warner Discovery gang was there in the building. And I just had seen a story the other day where they are actually telling AEW they'd like him to tone down the language a little bit. And you kind of wonder if there was just a bad reaction there too. And I don't know. It's kind of a mess, but you got to imagine it's All Out. This is AEW's WrestleMania. They've got to do something big.
I will say if MJF doesn't come back here, then it was actually a shoot, not a work, and he's done. I think he has to come back at All Out.
Yeah, I would hope he would too. I really do. I mean, that's
right. Now the question is, okay, he comes back at All Out. Now, what's the play? Like, what does he do that the crowd's like, yeah, he's back, awesome, I can't believe he did that? I don't know if there's anything that he can do right now to come back at All Out that, since we're talking about moving the needle, it's like I don't see where he fits in to making a major statement at All Out.
Well, and that's why I'm kind of wondering if there would be something happening with him associating with Punk. I could see a scenario where MJF costs Jon Moxley the title and all of a sudden stands in the middle of the ring with CM Punk and they shake hands. And then you have a moment.
But Joe's right. There's no reason for MJF to align with Punk when they've been at each other's throats this entire time.
Well, there was no reason for Hulk Hogan to join the Outsiders.
Sure there was. Yeah, the fans were turning against him.
But I'm just saying storyline. I mean, there wasn't a reason.
That was the reason. That was storyline reason, too, for Hogan. And
it was like it was the perfect storm to do it because he had been that guy for so long. MJF has basically been a heel. So if he aligns with CM Punk to beat Jon Moxley, doesn't that still make him a heel, whether they shake hands or not? Because Jon Moxley's a beloved character in AEW.
Well, that's what I'm saying. CM Punk goes heel on this. That's where things I think are trending because you guys are talking about the fans turning on Hogan a little bit.
Yeah.
And
it would work if it was Punk coming back to do that, though. But MJF coming back to stay a heel, there's no shock value there because nothing happened.
Comes underneath CM Punk. So he comes back to not be the guy. He comes back to be the apprentice he comes back to be Colt Cabana.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was an idea. I guess we're going to find out in a week at All Out on September 4th in Chicago, by the way. CM Punk's hometown. That's going to be entertaining. More backstage.
Right, so he won't get booed no matter what he did anyway.
Yeah,
very true.
Very true. More backstage drama on AEW as Thunder Rosa has apparently been hurt. They're saying she has some bulging discs in her back, and she is not relinquishing the AEW Women's Championship either. Yeah, I know.
What a disaster.
So now we're going to have another interim champion on the women's side because at All Out, and apparently Toni Storm was slated to win that championship from everything that I had heard. But now we're going to have a four-way match between Toni Storm, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and Hikaru Shida. And apparently Britt Baker is not getting along with Thunder Rosa. So now it's on the women's side, too, plus this interim championship, which I understood for Punk because you build all that time up and he gets hurt 3 days into his title reign. But this doesn't make any sense to me, guys.
No, not only that, the problem is, and no offense, but the women's program isn't strong enough to handle the same kind of storyline that the men's program can handle.
Yeah, and there's apparently some heat on Thunder Rosa in the back, too.
I'm going to say that, that's what happens. When you go through WWE, you go through a program. AEW just went out and signed a whole bunch of independent wrestlers and kind of brought them in and then mixed them in with WWE talent. And these independent wrestlers are used to kind of doing what they want to do. And they've all been thrown at it, and some, react well, and some don't. Like, we've heard things with Thunder Rosa for a while. So it's no different. You've heard it about Brandy Rhodes. You hear it about a lot of people, and guys, girls, it doesn't matter. And, I'm going to say maybe it has to do with the independent people, because when you book people independently, you can book whoever you want, and they have their list of demands or what they want to do when they come in, and who's losing and who's not losing and all the other stuff. And, they haven't been taught the other way, because that's what happens. When you're an independent wrestler and WWE went out and signed you, what'd you do? Well, you went to NXT and you perfected your craft, and then when we thought when WWE thinks you're ready, then you got put onto the main roster. In AEW, you just get thrown into the mix and sink or swim. Your bad antics, get blown up even more, because you're used to, hey, this is what I want to do, and blah, 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 blah. And now all of a sudden she came in, Thunder Rosa, she became a big deal. She was from the NWA, and she kind of walked out on them. So it's like, well, the track record's already there.
The leopard doesn't change their spots.
Yeah, and it's really a shame that all this is going on right before All Out, because it really is their WrestleMania card. It's where this whole thing got started. And there are a lot of good matches on this card. They've done some great build-ups for some of these. You look at, you got Bryan Danielson and Chris Jericho, which I think is going to be a blast to watch. Jungle Boy and Christian Cage is doing some of the best work of his career. Jungle Boy's really stepped up. You got two really outstanding young wrestlers in Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs that I think are going to tear the house down in this match. It's kind of it's a shame that all this drama has happened, and especially with the injuries, and they just haven't been able to get it back in sync yet.
And you're saying that this is their version of WrestleMania, and I was talking about this off the air, that if the WWE had booked WrestleMania and 8 days out of WrestleMania or a week out of WrestleMania, we didn't know that there was a heavyweight championship match, we'd be blasting WWE for it. This is their WrestleMania, and they don't have a heavyweight championship match. So that means the title isn't as important as they want to make it seem.
Well, on the other side of that, though, and I'll defend AEW a little bit, they didn't even know when Punk was going to get back. Now, he was hurt. A lot of people were saying that he wasn't going to be coming back until the next pay-per-view Revolution, so they weren't sure if he was going to be ready.
Then you have a match with Moxley and somebody, and if Punk's back, you make it do exactly what, and people hate it, but you would do what WWE does, and all of a sudden it's just three-way dance.
Right. It was like, so you didn't know when he was going to be back, but if you're able to announce him for Dynamite, why couldn't you have just announced him for All Out? It's like Kenny Omega, he comes back to be in some six-man match. I know it's for the trios title, whatever, but it's like, isn't he supposed to be like their number one guy in the company? It's kind of like, hey, The Rock's coming back for WrestleMania, and he's going to be in a 6-man tag with the Bloodline. Like, at least that would be the Bloodline. It would be like taking on the Legends or whatever it is. But it's like, it's leadership. And obviously Tony Khan is failing at leadership because in the beginning it was like, oh, here's a bunch of money. Here's what we're going to do. And now it's more than just the money. It's the way you're treated.
They have an amazing undercard and no main event.
Yeah.
I said, if this was WWE, everyone, and rightfully so, would be blasting WWE for saying, how could you not have a main event for WrestleMania?
No, I agree. And like I said, they've handled a lot of these injury situations and the backstage drama not well. And I think that's why Tony Khan has decided to put other people in between him and the talent, which is a good idea. But they've got to piece this together.
You have enough wrestling veterans there who know who could have gone to Tony Khan and said, "Look, you have to have a main event for your biggest show. You can't not announce anything."
Well, and I almost and I'm kind of wondering too if the whole drama here with CM Punk and Hangman Adam Page had something to do with this that threw everything off as well. And maybe they overreacted. I mean, I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know.
Here's a scenario that we look at. When they put AEW together, it was for the boys and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and Jericho and all these guys. They were put in this huge position of power. Well, Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks have their cliques. Everybody has their cliques. So now, when you're in the position of power as wrestlers, and now there's turmoil between the wrestlers, now people are going to take sides, and there's going to be way more animosity. In WWE, you knew who the boss was. It was Vince McMahon, and you ain't going to cross the boss. And then Triple H took over, and maybe he's a lot more wrestler-friendly, but he's distanced himself from being a wrestler. So now backstage, Adam Page is yapping at the Young Bucks about CM Punk. Well, now something's got to be done. And now there just becomes, to me, there's so much inner turmoil between the wrestlers that it's now gone to management because who's in management? The wrestlers. So I think it's just, it sounded good on paper, but I think now it's really starting to implode.
Yeah, they need to create more of a corporate structure in there. And there's enough people in there that know what they're doing, have been around for a long time to straighten this out. So hopefully they will. Of course, we're on the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM. I'm Mark Hoke along with Andrew Fish Fain and Joe DeFalco from Future Stars of Wrestling. Fish, you had something else.
Yeah, Joe, as a promoter, is this pay-per-view, with everything that's going on with AEW, is this pay-per-view now almost a make-or-break pay-per-view for them? Do they have to knock it out of the park with this one because of all the turmoil and everything's happening? People basically go, if it ain't that great, if it's just good or worse, we'll just go, you know what? There isn't anything here.
No, because as I said, they're a niche company, and just like when we do it at our shows, and things screw up, or there's turmoil, or there's issues, the fans aren't really that much aware of it. And in AEW, when they see something, there's the apologists for AEW, just like they're the apologists for WWE. So MJF, it's a work, it's good, everything's good. CM Punk, it's a work, he's going to get the title back, everything's good. And they're still going to buy it, and they're still going to do the pay-per-view. They're not going to pay attention. If you love AEW, there's no doubt that Thunder Rosa has a back issue. If you're anti-AEW, she doesn't want to drop the belt. And that's how it is. The battle lines have been drawn with AEW and WWE. That's the only thing that AEW has really come in when we talk about competition, and there's so many on one side against so many. It's like Trump and Biden, Democrats and Republicans. There's no middle ground with AEW and WWE.
Yeah, it's amazing that we were just talking a few months ago about how tight things were in the locker room, and everything seemed like it was a better atmosphere to be working at.
And WWE was going downhill, and they were in a ton of trouble.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden the tide's turning a little bit. And
like I said, I think that Vince McMahon leaving WWE and Triple H taking over put pressure on AEW, and that pressure, in the end, it'll make him stronger because it takes pressure to make a diamond, but right now it's making them crumble a little bit.
Well, 6 months ago, everybody was like, oh, who in WWE is leaving to go to AEW? Now it's like, hey, who's going to be leaving AEW to go back to WWE? So,
yeah, and of course the bloom's going to come off the rose there at some point too. But I think Triple H has a pretty good understanding of how to handle that, and we're gonna.
And Triple H is going to get rid of the guy, just like he's brought back all the guys he likes. Guess what's going to happen to the guys that are Vince McMahon guys that he doesn't like?
Yeah, but I think the difference being Vince McMahon would get rid of you whether you were good or not if he didn't like you. I think Triple H will still keep guys that may not be his guys if they're good, but guys like Omos, who are obviously a Vince McMahon guy, is not going to get run for Triple H because he's just not good enough.
Well, right, because Vince McMahon was a guy that if he liked you, it didn't matter if you were good or not. So with Triple H, there's certain guys that aren't going to make the cut that probably we've looked at and like, how is that guy still under contract? And I'm pretty sure that they won't be soon enough.
I mean, I don't remember the last time we saw Omos.
He did a handicap match 2 weeks ago on Raw.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah. So he came out and beat up a couple jobbers. So he's still around.
They went backwards with him. He's back to the initial push with him was beating up guys that nobody ever heard of. Two local students he got to beat up.
Yeah, he really should be in NXT.
Absolutely,
that's where he should be. And he just got, Vince McMahon likes big sweaty men, as Ross Tweedle likes to say.
He could be Apollo Crews' bodyguard.
Wait, isn't that role filled already?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he can have a second bodyguard.
2 bodyguards for Apollo Crews in NXT. That's crazy. Oh, my God. Pro wrestling, I'll tell you what, fellas, it is something else.
I mean, we haven't even touched on the weekend it was or going to be in WWE with, like, the return of Johnny Gargano.
Isn't that great? Because we have an extra hour to do it today.
I know.
Isn't that amazing? So we're going to...
There you go. We got an hour to talk about NWA. I'm excited.
There was an NWA card, but while I have like 2 minutes left here, I do want to mention real fast the G1 Climax tournament in New Japan finished up. A great final between Okada and Will Ospreay. And Ospreay's just been all over the place, looking great, but Okada wins that tournament. And G1 Climax that's a pretty cool concept. They run a month of pool play. They set up 4 pools of 7 wrestlers, and they all wrestle off each other. And then the winner of each pool goes to a semifinal and a final elimination tournament.
Isn't Ospreay going to be at All Out in the Trios Championship?
Well, we don't know that yet. Don't know that. They're wrestling Ospreay and
wrestling
Young Bucks and Kenny Omega.
Right.
So probably not.
No.
But we will.
I'm excited that a few former FSW mainstays got to make their New Japan debut during that tournament. Royce Isaacs, former tag champ, Tito Escondido, who we've used for years, Tom Lawler, T.J. Perkins was there, so it was a good showing.
Yeah, I mean it was a great turn. Yeah, I saw Filthy Tom got a shot in there, so good for Filthy Tom. He won a couple matches too. He was in the pool with all the big boys. They had a pretty nasty group that he got stuck in, to say the least. And I'm scrolling down on that real fast. But yeah, he was in there with Okada, Jonah, Lance Archer, Jeff Cobb, Toru Yano, and Bad Luck Fale. I mean, Lawler was a cruiserweight compared to that gang, but he got a few wins in there. So good.
Yeah. And Jeff Cobb we've used, and he lives in Vegas, another local guy. So it was definitely a good turnout. They had Cobb beat Okada a couple months back.
Yeah. So a pretty wild one, and I'd recommend checking that out if you get a chance to watch a few of those matches. But the final was outstanding. Ospreay and Okada, why they're 2 of the best in the world. All right, guys, we're going to head to a break instead of wrapping the show up. And we're going to be back next hour for you.
Predictions, Clash of the Castle.
Yeah, we're going to get into all the WWE stuff. So stick around, everybody. We're going to be right back on the Mark Hoke Show here on KDWN 101.5 FM. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.